Dave Reichman of Treetop Industries.
Hey, Dave.
Thank you, Mike.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Of Treetop Industries. Very good. Very good.
So
Treetop Industries TTII is OTCQB, and is one of those lingering opportunities.
A mini conglomerate, if you will, in that we have several different emerging technologies in healthcare, internet technology, toxic waste, and of course our latest acquisition in oil production. And we are focused this past year on our acquisition of an oil lease that we acquired in some 520 acres in southeastern Kansas. Property has several wells on it that we have repaired and cleaned up, and we've opened 2 new wells this past month, which were not online before, and we've begun production of those 2 wells.
Interesting.
And
yeah,
it is. We're using very little property of the leasehold at the moment. Again, we have some 520 acres, and we're on a very small part about that. And what our idea was with our local operator was there, what was present at the time, getting that stabilized, and then moving this second half of the year into developing part of the rest of the leasehold.
That's really intriguing, Dave. You don't normally hear oil and Kansas in the same sentence. How did you find this place?
Question, but let me first address that you don't normally hear about Kansas and oil. Kansas in the breadbasket is probably something much more common to us.
Right.
However, going back to 1997, the federal government, the U.S. federal government and Department of Energy, Kansas, southeast corner of Kansas, northwest, touching the Mississippian line and other veins that seem to have a certain rich residence of oil. So it's quite unique in a certain sense, and you're right, we don't hear about it very often because we think about Kansas as breadbasket or the Wizard of Oz, etc.
Dave, don't you have some sort of technology for exploring for oil in one of your other subsidiaries?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
In one of the in this acquisition that we did in the last day of 2012, we acquired, in addition to this leasehold, we acquired several other assets, and one of them is technology which in Brazil. And Mike certainly knows much more about the technology. We've acquired it. However, we haven't gotten to put it into play as of yet. We have an interest in the company, and we are in the process of taking over that entity. It'll take us a little bit of time, but I think that we'll have that done in short order, being by the end of that entity. It'll take us a little bit of time, but I think that we'll have that done in short order, being by the end of this year. That technology has the ability to identify the location of it. So we're really looking forward to getting that asset back online and using it for the identification, and therefore the cost in identification would be that much less.
Is this like heat sensor stuff, or what is it?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Is it like heat sensor type stuff? I mean, that's intriguing.
Well, it is. I sorry, say that again?
Is it like heat sensor type stuff? I mean, that's intriguing.
Well, it is. I can't quite explain all the technology involved in it because we haven't acquired it in complete as of yet. But as we take over property to identify 2 wells, where the locations to drill, and it did bring about a quick result.
Yeah, they're currently productive.
That's correct.
Yes.
Well, that sounds like that could revolutionize the oil industry.
And it's being actively used by Petromax in Brazil.
Okay.
David is busy working on the legal matters to be able to put everything into Treetop. And if it is successful, I mean, the stock is like 2 cents bid at 50. You'll see it start trading very nicely. In the meantime, it's an opportunity because he's done everything right, and it's OTCQB, which is a very good listing.
Well, you would think that every oil explorer in the world would want that piece of equipment.
Well, Greg, different areas are more applicable to different types of things. For example, there's when you're other areas, you want something else in order to identify. So there are a bunch of technologies that are out there and available, but you really have to kind of use the technology that is best suited, to your technology.
Gotcha.
So, I don't know which is more appropriate with which other things, but I'm assuming that if you're drilling a horizontal, you use a different technology for identification than you would if you're in East Texas drilling straight down.
Right,
to an area, so there's that.
In drilling, a substantial amount of contiguous acres. You can't have like 150 acres or 200, but you need 500, and that's what Treetop has, is 500. So the horizontal drilling will certainly work in this southern Kansas area. Kansas is becoming more like an oil state. More oil being found all the time in Kansas. So there's certainly a lot of opportunity there for oil drilling. And he's already producing oil as we talk, small amounts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, and we've brought on just next month 1 or 2 more as well. But again, in totality, it's small for the moment, but we will begin our program of development of the property in the second part of this year now, as we enter it. And as we gain control of technology and some of the other assets that we acquired, we'll be able to deploy them.
Now, you mentioned Treetop being kind of a conglomerate of emerging companies. What else is there in Treetop Industries?
Well, that's a great question. in the healthcare, we have worked the last 2 years on a demonstration project with the World Without Blindness and the New York Eye, Ear Infirmary, and the chief of glaucoma there, who's a friend of mine for some years. He has developed software in which for glaucoma, macular degeneration, and several other kinds of diseases. Now, a predisposition does not mean that one has it or will get it, but there's a likelihood for such.
Sure.
And he has developed software technology, and we've employed it in Ecuador, and lived there until he was about 20, 21 years old before he came to the United States. Actually went to Canada first and then came to the United States. Today he's one of the foremost eye surgeons in the world, specializing in areas of the project is such that it does a testing by the use of a headband. It's a non-invasive approach. There is nothing invasive whatsoever, and the child does not participate actually in the test except to sit in front of a TV screen, if you will, or a monitor, and watch a cartoon or a baseball game or whatever, something natural. And automatically, what the headband and the electrodes measure are the optic nerve signals. They are brought into the computer and through the internet sent to up to New York and New Jersey to the World Without Blindness. And their people diagnose and write a medical report within 24 hours. The concept is that he trains the local doctors into how to interpret and treat these children, and we've been able to correct better than 50% in the first year of the sample population that had some predisposition. It could be lazy eye, it could be all sorts of things. But what it is to get it on a path that there's a very good chance one can prevent, to some degree, if not totally, these kinds of diseases taking hold. He performs a certain level of surgery if there is needed. And of course, we will not see all the results until some child lives out their entire life. And that's how we'll know. But so far, in the 2-year period, we've done over 1,100, I think maybe we hit 1,200 children. Indigenous was about 11.5% to 12%, and better than 50% was resolved inside of a year. It's just tremendous.
Well, you're talking really basically about one of the major tenets of healthcare, which is identifying the problem as early as possible. And here in the U.S., that's not really an issue because of the degree of health care that we have, or because of the degree of wealth that we have, where parents are always taking their kids and things are set up, and it's a humanitarian effort to do it.
Charles, you're correct. The interesting thing is, with all our wealth in the United States, as you say, this kind of test is rarely done. And the reason is it's a preventative test. And it's not something of a norm that gets done. We react to something that's wrong in our medical setup. So, the child doesn't seem to be able to, hit the ball. Are they able to see? Do they see the ball? Is it their arms that don't work? Is it a motor coordination? There are all sorts of different things that we would approach about this in a preventive way, and that's why this test is not subjective as when we go and have an eye test done. We go and our eyes are measured. Do we see the E? The E is a defined object at a certain distance, and from there they're able figuring out what's going on inside, behind the eye, the optic nerve, and what is it sending to the cortex.
And, of course, in the United States, Dave, is this covered by insurance?
No.
Well, I'll see you there. Insurance.
No.
Well, I'll see you. There you go. It's,
there you go.
Uh-huh.
That's
Bingo.
Exactly correct.
Oh, man.
So,
oh.
And this is, the nature of the healthcare system without getting into the politics of it.
You just have. You just have.
Well, it's just an amazing thing. And here, I can't imagine that if I was a young father and I have a child born, why I wouldn't want to do a non-invasive air test.
Well,
it's like my recollection, and of course it's quite a distant past, but I remember in elementary school having.
Sure.
Yes.
To do it in that setting was, I don't know if they do it anymore. I don't have any young kids, but that was one of the areas where, the teachers would see that, as you say, David, something was wrong, something just wasn't, at a level that it should have been, and, you hear from the school.
Sure.
You're enticed or motivated, is a better word, motivated to, go for further testing.
And this preventative test is truly amazing, David, if you think about it. Turning the clock way back to when I was like 4 years old, I had 2 eye surgeries.
Like 100 years.
Yeah, it's about 100 years. Did eye surgery on me. Well, fast forward to the 80s in Los Angeles, and the doctors are going, why in the world did they do that? It had nothing to do with the vision. It was just muscles.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. And so if you had this preventative test, then that could conceivably solve a lot of problems and a lot of unneeded surgeries.
I totally agree with you. And with regard to Charles's comment about the testing that was done when we were children in public schools in the New York City environment, for instance, which was famous for, it was an advanced movement at that time. But the eye testing that was done, no idea about this scenario. The hearing test was really, as I remember it, about you raised your hand every time you heard whatever that sound was. Now, I don't know too much about hearing, but in this eye thing, what we're saying now, what we're saying with his technology, is that he's able to see the optic nerve. Now, that's not seeing whether you see the E or not. That's seeing what the eye does with the message to your brain. This is a whole different form.
Wow.
Forming well. This is something about what hasn't developed in a... you wouldn't see it in the development at the moment. It's in the background, and it's part of our physiology.
Wow. This sounds so important. It really does. It sounds so important. It really does.
It really is a dynamite project. And we have other healthcare ones as well that are being worked on. But to answer your question, that's one that certainly is a passion because of what it can do for people around the world who become blind, who would get macular degeneration and may not because of this kind of treatment that is a protocol that he has for treatment of this, and so forth. From that, we have technology in the toxic waste environment is a really phenomenal project in which, without burning, without incineration, so we're not using any fuel for this except the electricity of 5 light bulbs, we can vaporize toxic waste. And that's an amazing future. Instead of having to market in accordance with federal regulations, federal, state, and local subdivision, municipal subdivision rules, we could effectively destroy it on site at the location without much manpower and without burning a huge amount of fuel. Fantastic technology, and we're trying to bring it to a point where we can manufacture and fabricate a few prototypes to take around for demonstration purposes. So this is a very exciting project, and it should involve all the major pharmaceutical. As I kind of talk about over a drink, it could be as small as a waste unit put at a drugstore for all those medicines that everybody dumps down the toilet bowl or leaves in their medicine cabinets only at the danger and peril of their children. It could all be gotten away in a way that it's out of the reach of their children. Nobody gets hurt by it. It doesn't leach into our water supply, and it would doesn't leach into our water supply, and it would be gone. So this is a phenomenal kind of project that we've been working on for some time now.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, where do we find Treetop Industries on the web?
You find that at www.TTIIOB.com.
Okay, what is it again?
TTIIOB.com.
Very cool. And where?
And we are traded both the bulletin board and the QB.
Sounds good. Charles, any other questions? We've got about 4 minutes left.
Not for me.
Michael?
No, I think it's absolutely amazing. Do you have any plans? Do you have for
our product? What we were planning to do, and it's not yet formulated, but our thinking is that we could, in the United States, because of the regulation issue, we could raise funds through a charitable organization, and then take this technology, which we have the worldwide rights to, and take that to various heavily populated countries like India, like Indonesia, like China, and Western Europe, and employ it there because the cost for it is nominal for us. And what we would be, it's just a phenomenal.
Would that fit into a 501c3 status?
Yes, absolutely.
That's amazing.
So that should be discussed.
That is amazing. Yeah. Well, of people. I mean, my goodness. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yes. Yeah, it would be terrific. and it would just it would take children that would otherwise in the future be having impaired vision for one reason or another, and erase that issue for them. And I mean, what is more important than your eyesight and your toes?
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Boy, that's something. We'll
your eyesight and your toes.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. Boy, that's something. Well, David, you're on to something. Boy, it sounds like your hand's in so many different things. You are right. A conglomerate is correct at Treetop Industries. Thanks for being with us.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you.
All right. And, Michael, do we have any legalities with...
Well, Rule 17B, Charles and I...
There you go.
Have 17B.
There you go. All right. Boy, I'll tell you.
And the market's making new highs, up 125 right now.
Uh-huh.
This is a seasonal.
The gold and the
intact.
silver are both up.
Yep.
The S&P is up almost 12, 1972.03.
And the dollar's a little weaker.
And the dollar's a little weaker, exactly. Boeing's up about 70 cents.
The dollar's breaking below 80.
Yep.
So
there we have it.
There you go. All right. Hey, boy, I'll tell you, having Dave on from Treetop. So
there we have it.
There you go. All right. Hey, boy, I'll tell you, having Dave on from Treetop was what an education. And he's correct. They're into so many different things. But, you know, you start thinking about, especially like the toxic area, you would think major pharmaceuticals, plus I could see, you know, having one of those at every Walgreens or CVS or something like that, you know, you know, because every once in a while a law enforcement agency will have these bring back your drugs thing for prescription drugs. But boy, if you could just do that on a regular basis for people who pass on or something like that, that would be awesome. What an idea. What an idea. Well, guys, we've done it, and we'll be talking with you next week. Have a good 4th of July, guys.